Shari had always made it look easy. Juggling motherhood, entrepreneurship, and reality TV fame like it was second nature. To fans, she was untouchable. That girl who left a toxic marriage and built an empire from the ashes. The type of woman who'd walk into a room and shift the energy without saying a word. But here's the thing, even the strongest people have a breaking point. And Melody, she had been standing at the edge for far longer than anyone knew. For years, there were whispers, not loud enough to cause a concern, but just enough to make some fans tilt their heads. A slimmer frame, a tired smile, skipping out early from events. People chalked it up to work, motherhood, or just the pressures of reality TV. No one ever thought to look deeper. Why would they? Melody never gave a reason to. She always looked good, spoke confidently, and stayed booked and busy. But behind all that glow was a woman hiding something that could have ended it all. It wasn't until early 2024 that the mask really started to crack. Not on camera, not on social media, but in private when the lights were off and the glam was gone. The fatigue wasn't just tiredness anymore. It was full-body exhaustion. The kind that made brushing her hair feel like climbing a mountain. Skin flared up in angry patches. Her memory, once razor sharp, would suddenly glitch in the middle of conversations. And worst of all, her kids noticed. That's when it stopped being just a personal secret and started becoming a family burden. Melody had always been the definition of poise under pressure. A boss mom, a public figure, a brand. And to her, being vulnerable wasn't part of the job description. Vulnerability meant weakness, and weakness could be twisted, used against her. She'd already seen how the internet worked. One moment you're an icon, the next you're trending for the wrong reasons. So she smiled through it, filmed through it, prayed through it, and told herself she'd deal with it when the time came. But the time came quicker than expected. One night, while making dinner, her body simply gave out, collapsed right there. In front of her children, that moment changed everything. Her daughter's voice, shaking and scared, asking if she was going to be okay. That hit harder than anything Martell ever did. That wasn't just a scare. That was a wake-up call. Melody realized she wasn't just risking her health. She was risking the one thing she'd fought hardest to protect, her kids. And still, even after the collapse, she didn't go public. She took a step back, canceled some appearances, slowed down the brand deals. Her fans noticed, of course, the always active Melody had suddenly gone quiet. The Instagram lives stopped. The Melody Mondays disappeared, but nobody knew why. They just assumed she was taking a break. Maybe a well-earned vacation. The truth was way deeper. The diagnosis came not long after that collapse. Lupus, a chronic autoimmune disease that doesn't play fair. It doesn't care if you're successful, doesn't care if you're a mom, a CEO, or the face of a TV show. It hits, and it keeps hitting. And Melody, she was already in the middle of it. The decision to finally tell the world didn't come easy. It wasn't for clout. It wasn't a PR move. It was survival, because pretending to be okay was now more dangerous than being honest. And once she made that decision to speak, everything changed. She sat on her couch, no makeup, no glam, just a bare face and trembling hands. Her phone was propped up in front of her, and for a few seconds she said nothing, just breathed. Then, in the softest voice you've ever heard from her, Shari said, "I've been hiding something from y'all." That sentence alone sent a ripple across her fan base. And what followed? It wasn't just a confession. It was a moment of pure, raw truth that stripped every layer of the public persona away and showed the woman beneath it. "I've been diagnosed with lupus," she said, her voice cracking halfway through. "I didn't know how to say it without falling apart." That was the first time she had said those words out loud to anyone outside her circle. And in that moment, she wasn't the TV star, the boss, the brand ambassador. She was just a mother trying to stay alive long enough to raise her children. She explained everything: the chronic pain, the inflammation, the sleepless nights, the medication, the fear. Her flare-ups had gotten worse over time. Random fevers. Fatigue so intense she could barely function. Skin rashes, hair thinning. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't Instagrammable. It was humiliating and scary. And she carried it in silence for over a year. She didn't want pity. That was never the point. What she wanted. What she needed was understanding, because lupus had changed her life in every possible way. And while her public image stayed flawless, her private world was crumbling. The strength everyone applauded was real, yes, but it came at a steep cost. She had been operating on fumes, pretending for the cameras, smiling through pain so her kids wouldn't worry. She wasn't lying to her fans. She was lying to herself. The backlash she feared never came. In fact, the opposite happened. The video went viral. Not because of drama, but because it was real. Celebrities, fans, strangers, people from every walk of life rallied around her. People started sharing their own lupus stories. Lupus warriors, as they call themselves, came out in full force with clencher. And we all know I've been exploring that, while we celebritize with Clay's celebrities. Fans, strangers, fanes, strangers, fays, strangers. We slash clangers be talishly. We slash clage slash clanger. We slash clage slash clanger slash pricade slash clager lie with clad. Kai quade slide sly I cakelite quiet aside clyde a sly clay do we side we kai we so I continue to see the sadarik de I kai to utica sit I you glide you cook I we you kaka with to ki do you see under can I you take you for tick I guy you that side ficker we why tell you we could you or would you we could go to I support and solidarity. Hashtags like Healing with Melody trended within hours. It was no longer just her fight. It had become something bigger. But even as the world embraced her honesty, not everyone played fair. While Melody tried to rest, recharge, and focus on healing, someone else was gearing up for a battle of a different kind. Artel Ho, her ex-husband and father of her children, made a move that shocked even the most jaded followers of their story. He filed for full custody. Yes, full custody of all 4 of their children. And he wasn't subtle about it either. It's reasoning, Melody's illness. According to leaked documents, Martel argued that lupus made her unfit to care for the kids full time. He claimed that her fatigued doctor visits and medicaltreatment interfered with her ability to be a stable parent. The audacity of that claim hit like a punch in the gut. This was the same woman who, despite being sick, never missed a school. Events stayed active in every part of their lives and kept those kids happy and grounded during the most chaotic years of their family's history. And now the very thing she feared, her vulnerability being used against her, was happening in real time. Melody didn't lash out publicly. She didn't post a single subtweet, but behind the scenes, it broke her. Friends say she cried for days. Not from fear of losing custody, but because a man who once vowed to protect her had weaponized her pain. And that betrayal, it cut deeper than the disease ever could. In the courtroom, everything felt cold. The seats, the air, the looks exchanged across the room. But nothing compared to the chill that ran through Melody's spine as she sat across from Martel. The man who once held her hand at the altar, now staring at her like a rival. The legal documents laid it all bare. He wanted full custody. And not just that, he wanted child support from her. While she battled a chronic illness, Melody's team came prepared. They had letters from teachers, glowing progress reports, testimony from family and friends. Doctors had written statements confirming that while she had lupus, it didn't affect her capacity to parent. In fact, one doctor noted that the stress of hiding her illness had been more damaging than the illness itself. They showed how she kept routines, attended events, and never let her condition interfere with her kids' needs. Martel's team, on the other hand, tried to build a case on speculation. Kay pointed to her absences on social media, her retreat from brand work, and even clips from their reality show. One lawyer suggested that Melody's emotional instability could make her home environment unpredictable. The argument was flimsy, but the intention was clear. They wanted to break her image. Melody didn't break. When it was her turn to speak, she didn't crumble. She stood calm, composed, and she told her truth. She talked about nights she stayed up with fevers but still got the kids ready for school the next morning, about how she'd scheduled treatments around their activities so they'd never feel the impact of her pain. She admitted to being tired, yes, to being human, but not for 1 second did she portray herself as incapable. If anything, her illness had made her more present, more intentional. Then came the turning point. A judge asked her directly, "Do you believe your condition affects your ability to raise your children safely?" Melody looked up and said, "No, Your Honor. I believe it's made me fight harder to live for them." The silence after that answer said everything. By the end of the proceedings, the judge ruled for joint custody with Melody, maintaining primary physical custody. It was a win. Not just legally, but emotionally. But make no mistake, she didn't walk away unscarred. The damage wasn't in the verdict. It was in the fact that it had to happen at all. Friends say Melody went quiet again after the ruling, not from shame, but from exhaustion. Physically, emotionally, spiritually drained. She had spent so long being strong for everyone that there was nothing left in the tank. Her lupus symptoms flared worse during the trial. The stress took a toll. But in the stillness that followed, something shifted. She started focusing on herself. Truly, not just the performance of healing, but the actual act of it. She stepped away from filming, turned down deals, reworked her schedule so she could rest when her body demanded it.